At the end of 2015, after I had finished giving a Dharma talk to several thousand Buddhists at HP Temple in HCM City, a middle-aged man with graying hair, dressed in a light blue Buddhist lay robe, quietly slipped a small note into my hand. When I returned to my hotel, I unfolded it and read, "Dear Mr. Has, I was deeply moved by everything you shared this morning at HP Temple. If only I had met you much earlier, my life might have been so much happier. I know you are a very busy journalist, but I respectfully ask for the opportunity to meet you so that I may tell you the story of my life, a life filled with sin, suffering, ignorance, and countless mistakes. I believe that through your writing, my story could bring great benefit to many readers. My phone number, 097.856. I eagerly await your reply. Respectfully, NNT." After reading the letter, I decided to postpone my return flight to HN City. That evening, I arranged to meet the mysterious man at a traditional tea house in SG. The moment he saw me, tears welled up in his eyes. After taking only a single sip of tea, he politely asked permission to tell me the story of his life. "As you can imagine," he said quietly, "it's a very long story. My name is NNT. My family originally comes from DN province, but I was born and raised in a province in central Vienna. Toward the end of the 1990s, as people's standard of living improved, many developed a fascination with seeking out rare and exotic delicacies. Recognizing this growing trend, I invested every penny I had to open a luxury restaurant specializing in wild game. My business was built around three principles: delicious, rare, extraordinary. The restaurant was elegantly furnished and tastefully decorated. The waitresses were all young, attractive women. As for the menu, it featured the most unusual delicacies imaginable, each promoted with extravagant claims about its supposed medicinal powers. Customers would hear the advertisements and immediately insist on trying dishes such as snake embryos, said to make the husband strong and the wife happy; newborn field mice, supposedly enabling a man to enjoy boundless sexual stamina. Newborn field mice, supposedly enabling a man to enjoy boundless sexual stamina. To be honest, what people called snake embryos were actually snake eggs. From the outside they resembled quail eggs, yet each one sold for an exorbitant price, sometimes several 100,000 Vietnamese dong. When cracked open, a tiny snake, no thicker than the tip of a chopstick, could be seen wriggling inside like a small earthworm. People widely believed that snake embryos were a secret Chinese medicinal remedy. It was said that a single serving could double a man's vitality, fill his body with energy, and greatly enhance his sexual performance. To maximize the supposed aphrodisiac effect, diners were told they had to swallow the raw egg immediately after it was cracked open. Another popular rumor surrounded newborn field mice. These were baby mice that had just been born, hairless, pink, and still blind. According to legend, they were once an exclusive kidney-strengthening delicacy enjoyed by Empress Dowager Cixi of Imperial China. The story claimed that if one cut open a pregnant field mouse, removed the unborn babies, briefly dipped them into boiling water, and swallowed them whole while still fresh, they would provide extraordinary benefits for men. People argued that because the baby mice had remained inside their mother's womb, they were perfectly hygienic. They also claimed the meat tasted surprisingly sweet and rich. Besides serving the baby mice after briefly dipping them in boiling water, I also washed them with rice wine, alcohol, or salt water, removed their intestines, and soaked them for 2 or 3 months in liquor together with traditional Chinese medicinal herbs such as morinda root, goji berries, and codonopsis root. The resulting medicinal wine was advertised as an excellent tonic for male vitality. But the signature dish, the one that truly established my restaurant's reputation, was fresh monkey brain and monkey meat. At some point, people had become convinced that monkey brain was an extraordinary aphrodisiac capable of enhancing both masculine and feminine vitality. Many even believed its medicinal potency was greatest if the animal was butchered while still alive. To ensure they were receiving genuine fresh monkey brain, customers insisted the monkey be slaughtered right at the dining table. So I modified every table by cutting a circular opening in the center. Before the meal, the monkey was tightly bound beneath the table, with about 1/3 of its head protruding through the opening. Then, slash! With one swift stroke of an exceptionally sharp knife, the top of the monkey's skull flew off and landed on the tabletop. The monkey let out a heart-wrenching scream, like the desperate cry of a terrified child. Fresh lime juice was squeezed over the exposed brain. Ground pepper was sprinkled on top. The diners eagerly scooped up the warm brain mixed with fresh blood using spoons, swallowing it together with Vietnamese coriander and mint. The monkey's agonizing screams only heightened the excitement around the table. By the time it finally collapsed and died in unimaginable agony, every trace of its brain had been eaten. Many diners still had blood smeared around the corners of their mouths. To satisfy my customers' curiosity, I invented numerous other spectacles in which animals were tortured and slaughtered right at the dining table. The more brutal and horrifying the performance, the more thrilled my customers became. Among these gruesome displays were slaughtering ducks at the table and serving fresh duck blood pudding, cutting off an ox's tail while the animal was still alive before cooking it, locking cats inside cramped cages and slowly pouring boiling water over them until their fur peeled away, slicing fish into fillets while they were still violently struggling. I never once hesitated before any act of slaughter. In fact, the louder my customers cheered and the more exhilarated they became, the more excited I felt. Every stroke of my knife grew increasingly swift and skillful. In the year 2000, I married one of the most beautiful women in a coastal city. A year later, my wife became pregnant. People claimed that dog meat was especially nourishing for unborn babies. Believing those rumors completely, I insisted that my wife eat dog meat 3 times every week. Personally, I selected the finest young dogs, slaughtered them with my own hands, prepared the dishes myself, and lovingly fed them directly to my pregnant wife. After several months, she finally pleaded with me.
Please, I can't do this anymore. Dog meat is considered extremely heaty. What if our baby develops skin problems, excessive body hair, or dark birthmarks? Besides, I can't shake the feeling that this is wrong. Dogs are such loyal companions to people. How can we bring ourselves to eat them? One of my friends even told me that eating too much dog meat during pregnancy could increase the risk of epilepsy in the child.
I immediately snapped back in anger. Nonsense. Whoever told you that deserves a slap? Dog meat is delicious, nutritious, and packed with protein. Just look at old Mr. Luke next door. He eats dog meat almost every day. He's over 60 years old, yet he's as strong as an ox and built like an athlete. Come on, eat it for the sake of our baby's health. After a full-term pregnancy of 9 months and 10 days, my wife gave birth to a healthy, beautiful baby girl. I was overwhelmed with joy and tears streamed down my face. But something strange happened. The moment I reached out to hold my daughter, she suddenly screamed in terror, as though someone had hurt her. The more I tried to comfort and soothe her, the harder she cried. Her tiny face turned purple from crying so intensely. Oddly enough, as soon as my wife took her back into her arms, the baby calmed down within minutes. Whenever she was handed back to me, however, she immediately burst into tears again. My wife gently said,
Perhaps it's because you've slaughtered so many animals. The heavy aura of killing frightens her. Newborn babies are very sensitive. Their spiritual energy is still delicate. If you truly love her, perhaps you should keep your distance from her for a while.
From that day on, whenever I missed my daughter, I only dared to stand at a distance and quietly watch her. When she was 2 months old, she suddenly suffered violent convulsions. Foam appeared around her mouth. Her skin turned yellow. We rushed her to the city's emergency hospital. After examining the ultrasound images, the doctor said, "Your daughter has a blocked bile duct. Bile has entered her bloodstream, causing severe jaundice. Bacteria have spread through the bile ducts into her blood, resulting in septicemia. This is an advanced stage of biliary obstruction with a very high risk of death." Hearing those words, my wife burst into tears. I felt as though lightning had struck me. Fortunately, the hospital had recently welcomed an outstanding surgeon who had returned from advanced medical training in Australia. Thanks to his expertise, our daughter's life was saved. When she reached 5 months of age, my wife noticed something unusual while bathing her. Hair had begun growing all over our daughter's back. At first it was only soft fuzz. But within 10 days it became 3 to 4 centimeters long. The hair was golden, silky, and remarkably similar to monkey fur. It even spread down onto both of her buttocks. Terrified, we carried our daughter from one hospital to another throughout both northern and southern Vienna. Every doctor shook their head. None could determine the cause of this mysterious condition. Then a Buddhist nun told us about a hermit healer living atop Sea Mountain in Ag province. People said he could cure illnesses with traditional herbal medicine as if by a miracle. Without hesitation, I set out to find him. I still remember that bitterly cold morning. Dense fog covered the mountain. Carrying only my supplies and a carefully prepared map, I began climbing alone. Looking upward, I could see only towering peaks disappearing into the mist. The ancient forest felt deep and mysterious. The higher I climbed, the rougher the path became. After hours of crossing streams and climbing steep slopes, noon approached, yet I still had found no trace of the old hermit. I began to worry. Then, somewhere in the valley, I heard the slow, rhythmic sound of a wooden temple fish. Tock. Tock, tock. My spirits immediately lifted. Following the sound, I entered a narrow mountain path. Clouds drifted gently overhead. The lush greenery made the place seem like a heavenly paradise. Gradually, the sound faded into silence. Soon a crystal-clear mountain stream appeared before me. I knelt to drink. The water was cool, pure, and refreshing. As I raised my head, I suddenly noticed someone standing quietly beside the stream. He was an elderly man with silver-white hair tied into a topknot. His long white beard flowed in the breeze. He wore simple white silk robes. A gentle wind caused his sleeves and beard to sway softly. His eyes radiated kindness. There was something profoundly serene and otherworldly about him. For reasons I could not explain, I felt as though I had known him forever, as if he had been my parent or grandparent in another lifetime. I respectfully bowed and asked, "Master, would you kindly show me the way to Master Tay's residence?" The old man smiled. "I am he. You've come seeking treatment for your daughter, haven't you? I came here to meet you." I was stunned. This was my first visit to these remote mountains. It was also the first time I had ever met him. How could he possibly know why I had come? While I was still trying to understand, the old master stepped closer. He looked deeply into my eyes and quietly asked, "Some years ago, did you kill a golden-furred monkey that had a black patch on its back? That monkey has been reborn as your daughter. It has come to seek retribution." Cold sweat instantly drenched my body. 3 years earlier, I had indeed slaughtered a golden monkey with a distinctive black marking on its back for a group of local government officials who were regular customers. I could still remember the scene vividly. As I dragged the monkey from its cage, it repeatedly clasped its hands together as though begging for mercy. It bowed not only to me but also to the officials eagerly waiting to feast on its fresh brain. I stammered, "But that doesn't make any sense. Shouldn't it seek revenge against the people who captured it first? Those wealthy officials ate far more monkey meat than I ever did. Why would it come after only me?" The old master answered calmly, "Perhaps it has already repaid those people in other ways. Retribution does not always require rebirth as someone's child. Anyone who participates in capturing, killing, or eating such creatures will eventually experience the consequences of those actions. The timing differs because each person carries different karma and different accumulated merit. Today you have the karmic affinity to meet me, so I can explain the law of cause and effect to you. As for your own destiny, and the destiny of your family, it remains in your own hands. It can still be changed." The old master then handed me 3 packets of herbal medicine and instructed me, "Boil these herbs. Let your daughter drink the medicine, and use it to bathe her every day. But if you truly wish for her to recover, you must sincerely repent for killing that monkey. Every day, recite the Universal Gate chapter of Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva and dedicate the resulting merit to the monkey. The more sincere your repentance, the faster your daughter's condition will improve." I returned home and faithfully followed every instruction the old master had given me. Each day I prepared the herbal medicine for my daughter to drink and used it to bathe her. At the same time, I sincerely repented for the monkey I had killed, recited the Universal Gate chapter of Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva, and dedicated the merit to that unfortunate creature. To my astonishment, only 10 days later all the unusual hair on my daughter's body fell away. Her skin became smooth again, just as it had been before. Before long, I reopened my restaurant. Customers poured in once again, and money flowed in like water. Day after day I immersed myself once more in slaughtering, skinning, butchering, and entertaining customers with increasingly gruesome spectacles. Then, in 2004, retribution seemed to descend upon me in rapid succession. The first tragedy was the sudden death of my wife's grandfather. One day we heard that he was suffering a severe asthma attack, so my wife and I went to visit him. We brought along a thermos of porridge prepared with fresh monkey brain. I personally fed him. To my horror, after only the 3rd spoonful, he suddenly choked. His eyes rolled upward, his face turned dark purple. Tears streamed down his cheeks. His body stiffened. Within minutes, he died in my arms. My wife's entire family blamed me for his death. Before their anger had faded, another tragedy followed. Through my connections with several provincial officials, many of whom were regular customers at my restaurant, I helped my wife's uncle, a construction contractor, secure a large building project. One day, while inspecting the construction site, the scaffolding suddenly collapsed as workers were pouring concrete. A massive slab of concrete struck him directly. His skull was crushed, and he died instantly. The misfortunes continued. More than 3 months later, my mother-in-law developed a fever and was admitted to the hospital. Since I knew many of the doctors there personally, I drove her there myself. Her illness was not considered serious. Yet that very afternoon, only hours after her admission, she suffered a severe reaction to medication, followed by a massive heart attack. She died in her hospital bed. Then, in October, my paternal aunt suffered a stroke and was hospitalized. Our family members took turns staying with her. For reasons I still cannot explain, she passed away during the very shift when I was watching over her. When I looked back, I realized that all 4 deaths were connected to me in one way or another. From then on, both my own relatives and my wife's family began avoiding me as though I carried a terrible curse. They would whisper,
T has slaughtered far too many wild animals. The aura of killing around him is overwhelming. Stay close to him long enough, and disaster will surely follow.
Around the same time, customers gradually stopped coming to my restaurant. Business declined month after month. In February 2006, I experienced the same terrifying nightmare for 3 consecutive nights. In the dream, I was digging a grave in an empty field. I shoveled earth endlessly until the grave was complete. Then I looked down into the pit. To my horror, my younger brother was lying inside it, covered in blood. I awoke drenched in sweat. Terrified, I immediately called my mother and warned her to tell my younger brother to be extremely careful whenever he traveled. Exactly 6 days later, my mother called me, sobbing uncontrollably.
Your brother. He's been killed in an accident.
I rushed to the scene. Beneath a passenger bus lay my brother's crushed body. The sight overwhelmed me. I lost consciousness. 3 days after his funeral, I invited a Buddhist monk from DN to perform a memorial service at my home. After completing the ceremony, he quietly told me, "Your family is burdened by very heavy karma. Everyone should sincerely adopt a vegetarian diet to help lessen this karmic burden." Determined to protect my family, I vowed to observe a strict vegetarian diet for 49 days. Making the vow was easy. Keeping it was another matter entirely. After only a few days, I was tormented by cravings for meat and alcohol. Whenever neighbors cooked savory dishes, the aroma drifting through the air made my mouth water uncontrollably. Yet every time I remembered the terrible tragedies that had befallen my family, I forced myself to persevere. I went to the temple every morning, lit incense, and prayed to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas for the strength to fulfill my vow. Each afternoon I visited my younger brother's grave to offer incense. One day, while walking through the cemetery, I suddenly witnessed a horrifying scene. A group of young men were holding an elderly man flat on the ground. He had been stripped naked. A gleaming butcher's knife rested against his throat, ready to slit it. Shocked beyond words, I threw down my bicycle and ran forward to save him. But when I reached the scene, I froze. There was no old man. It was actually a pig being slaughtered for a memorial feast. Still shaken, I turned to leave. After walking only a short distance, I saw the old man again. Realizing he was a spirit, every hair on my body stood on end. He spoke softly, "When I was alive, I slaughtered far too many pigs. After my death, I had to repay that karma. Every year, on the anniversary of my death, I am forced to become a pig again so that my own descendants can slaughter me for the memorial feast." The spirit begged me to deliver a message to his family. "Please tell him to stop killing pigs. Otherwise, they will only continue piling karma upon karma, making their burden ever heavier." From that day forward, whenever I looked at an animal, I no longer saw merely an animal. I saw a fellow living being. I completely abandoned meat, fish, alcohol, and all intoxicants, and from that day onward I committed myself to a lifelong vegetarian diet. Soon afterward, my own body began to suffer from a series of strange illnesses. My head throbbed with unbearable pain. Hard knots formed throughout the muscles in my shoulders, neck, and back, becoming as rigid as stone. I perspired constantly. Red, intensely itchy rashes shaped like animals appeared across my skin. I scratched until my skin bled. At night I could scarcely sleep. Whenever I closed my eyes, horrifying scenes of slaughter and bloodshed replayed vividly before me. At that point, I finally understood that the evil karma I had accumulated over so many years was now ripening. Once I accepted that these sufferings were the natural consequences of my own actions, I stopped responding with fear, despair, or self-pity. Instead, I chose to face them calmly. I placed my faith in the Buddha's teachings and devoted myself wholeheartedly to spiritual practice, believing that sincere cultivation could transform adversity into peace. I came to believe with complete conviction, evil deeds bring evil consequences. Good deeds bring good consequences. Every action we perform, every word we speak, and even every thought that arises in our minds creates corresponding consequences that inevitably follow us. Gradually, I awakened to a profound truth. None of humanity's suffering is created by heaven. It is born from our own unwholesome thoughts and harmful actions, whether committed in this life or in previous lives. If we truly wish to change our destiny, there is only one path: practice kindness, cultivate virtue, and accumulate unseen merit through good deeds. From that day on, I constantly repented for my past actions. At times my remorse became so overwhelming that I broke down in uncontrollable tears. On February 19, 2006, I went to Lun Temple in Da Nang. There I knelt before the Buddha, formally vowed to observe a lifelong vegetarian diet, and took refuge in the three jewels, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. From then on, whenever I visited the market, I would purchase animals destined for slaughter and release them back into nature, hoping to atone for the countless lives I had taken. Whenever an opportunity arose to save living beings, I embraced it without hesitation. I also devoted as much of my wealth and resources as I could to helping the sick, the poor, and those in need. Remarkably, all of my strange illnesses gradually disappeared. I could not even say exactly when they had gone. From that time forward, my faith in the law of cause and effect became unshakable. Life had taught me an unforgettable lesson. It was a lesson far deeper than wealth, success, or worldly achievement. The ultimate purpose of human life is not to accumulate mountains of money, luxurious homes, expensive cars, or high social status. Rather, it is to diligently perform good deeds, cultivate hidden virtue, refrain from taking life, and benefit others. When our ancestors are honored through the goodness we create, we can live without regret or shame. And if we are fortunate enough to encounter the Buddha's teachings, we may discover the path that leads beyond suffering and the cycle of birth and death. After sharing the details of my life, I sincerely hope readers will take my experience as a warning and avoid repeating the mistakes I made. As the Vietnamese entrepreneur DLNV once famously asked, "What is the point of having so much money?" To be honest, had I not personally endured these unforgettable hardships, I would never have believed so deeply in the law of karma or in the consequences of taking life. Now I know with certainty that the law of cause and effect is unmistakably real. Its consequences follow every action as faithfully as a shadow follows the body, never deviating in the slightest.